I've had a few requests to kind of walk you through my process of setting up a website from beginning to end. A few of you were interested, particularly those who've not really worked in a web development programmer environment, just what all is involved in getting a site up and running. What I'm going to do is create a series of videos here, hopefully only 3, maybe possibly 4, that just walks you through my process. This is by no means all inclusive, and no means the rule. It's just kind of what I do. I'm working on a Drupal site now, so I will just step you through what I do in order to get my sites up and running, from beginning to end. The end part is going to kind of be a little bit relative because the end will require there's more tweaking and Q&A and updating certain things, but I think you'll get a feel for what can be involved in getting a site set up. So what I have already done, just as I was testing this process, is created a book spec site. So what I will do now, though, is completely obliterate that site so that we can start the entire process from beginning to end. And what I will do, I think I have already gotten rid of these tables. Let me just double check here. What I'm using right now is command line editor, and I'm using Drush inside of that command line editor. We will discuss Drush in class. We've already discussed Unix, Linux language, and most of you, I think except for, was it Henry, that, most of you have Windows machines. You should, as much as you possibly can, get familiar and relatively comfortable with using the command line editor. Even Windows actually has a command line editor built into it. But, in the course of your career, you're going to encounter shops where they're, using Mac only, which, and the OS is, based off of various flavors of Unix. So do not become overwhelmed, as you are watching the video. I didn't know you could do that. How on earth, did you accomplish that? A lot of this you will see. Some of it you'll be unfamiliar with, but don't worry. We will take care of, deep diving explanations, in class. But just kind of watch and, see my process, see the technologies that I use, some of the tools that I use, in order to get this accomplished. So let's dive in. Okay, so my tables are already gone. What I'm going to do is let's just completely remove book spec. I don't want to make the directory yet. Do not worry about these commands. I will give you guys a cheat sheet for the more commonly used commands. Let's see, I've got permissions down there. Okay, there's a permissions error on one of my files. One of the files has a permission set so that you can't accidentally delete a particular file. So what I'm going to do is go in here and change that permission so that I can actually delete that file, which will then allow me to delete the directory completely so that we can start from scratch. So let's go do that. And we are ready. Let's try this one more time. Book spec is now gone. We will make the directory again. And you will see that it is a completely clean directory. So we are starting from the beginning. Now, I've taken a couple of shortcuts, just in the interest of time. I have created a make file. Again, this is a Drush command. We will discuss this, again in detail in class, so don't worry about it. But I have created a make file, which just is a bundle of commands. And in my particular case, in this instance, it is downloading or telling the system that I want to download the core Drupal files and various modules that I have selected. So let me get this pulled in, and I think I have all of that obviously in my make folder. And inside of that make folder, I have a file called bnat. Why I called it bnat, I do not recall right now. But what it will do is go into that file, open the file, look at the instructions that I have, and execute all of those instructions. So let's let this run. No core project specified. Why is there no core project? Let's see. All right, let's go and take a look at my file. Oh, I think I may know what's wrong. Probably pulled something out. 1 second. Yeah, I think I know what's going on. Let's go in here and take a look. Yeah, that is it exactly. So at some point in time, and probably just, accidental couple of keystrokes, I went in and I removed the line that pulls down the core files that I need for Drupal. So if you don't have the core files, well, then nothing is going to work. So let's go in, get that taken care of, and we should be golden. All right, so let me save this. Yes. Okay, now let's try this one more time here. Drush make, and yes, I want to create it there. Alright, so I know I just set up that file. What's going on? Let me go back and take a look. Oh, typos will be the death of you. You just have to learn to resurrect yourself and move on. I think this should take care of it. And do note, just making a comment here, we've had this issue in class, and even as a seasoned developer, you can see I still run into it. But a key thing is to read your error messages and just read them in detail and kind of let them soak in. Because even as you heard me say, I know I just put in that line of code, but I had a typo. So the system is only doing what you tell it, and if you have something in there incorrect, it's going to shoot back an error for you. And what you see here is all of the Drupal core files being downloaded and all the modules that I typically use when I've got a fresh install that I'm working on. So what I'm going to do, another little shortcut I'm going to take here when this finishes. Let's do this. Okay, all of those files have now been downloaded. I am now going to install the actual Drupal instance here. One thing I need to change, this is for our previous course. I am changing the database reference to book spec. What this line of code is doing, Drush site install, it runs through, looks at the database, confirms the username and password. Once all of that is confirmed, it then sets up the account name and password for the Drupal instance that you're creating. So the reason, particularly for this line, since I am typo prone, I have it sitting here, in one of my notepads, so I just copy and paste it as needed. Let's let that run. It can drop any tables. No tables are there. That is fine. Give this a few seconds, and like I say, what it's doing right now, it's since I have the Drupal core files already downloaded and my modules downloaded, it's now taking all that information, looking for my database. It will then go into the database itself, create all the needed tables that Drupal requires, populate those tables, and then give me a working site. So now, let's open up a browser window here. If all goes well, let's see, we call that book spec, yes. If all goes well, we should have a working site. Do not panic over this. This typically happens when I set up a new site. Just click on refresh, and new site is there. Let's see if I can actually log in with the password that was set up in my script, and the username that was set up. Should work. Very good. Okay, so I tell you what, let's do a couple of other things here while we get this set up. I have, as we saw, I downloaded all those core files. I have installed all those core files. What I need to now do is turn on / enable those modules that I also downloaded. So let's do this. I have a little shortcut here. Line that I've already created of my modules that I want to enable, and all you see right here is just another Drush statement. Drush enable, and what it's going to enable is a module. It's going to look for a module called views. It'll look for a module called devel, an entity, admin, menu, date, and date pop-up. It will look for all of these modules, and if they are there, it will go in and enable them for me. If it's there, the reason why I have yes here, it typically asks a confirmation question. Since I know I want all of these enabled, I'm just adding yes to it. So whenever it encounters a question, it will just answer that question with yes for me automatically. I'll check out those warnings later, but I know that that's going to run through. I've got one more line here. for those of you who have worked, you know, a little bit with Drupal before, you know, I know a couple of you have also worked with WordPress. What we did before we had Drush, oh my gosh, it's just, it's unbelievable now. But again, here's another reason why you should get comfortable with using the command line, because it does provide you some shortcuts, you know, particularly to very repetitive tasks that you have to do. And, you know, using the GUI in Drupal, you know, and or WordPress when you're, you know, downloading modules or plugins, as they were referred to inside of WordPress, you know, it can get a little bit tedious, particularly when you've got so many that you're using, or you're using an FTP process to, you know, grab all the files, move them into the directory, unzip them, and then get everything installed correctly. Drush helps you with that tremendously. All right, so what I have done is I have enabled the typical modules, or the starter modules, I guess I should say, that I want to use. And let's see what effect that has had. Gonna do a refresh here and check my time. I want to see if I can keep these videos to like 15 minutes each. Good deal. Okay, so what I'll do, let you take a look at the modules page to see all of what we were downloading and all of what we were installing. Let's see, I'm getting a couple of warnings here. What are you saying, Drupal core? I should have downloaded the latest version. It's gone to 2.8, that's why. Okay, that is an easy enough change. And we got a couple of changes here. I'm going to do this two different ways. Okay, so I'm going to go with Drupal core files. You typically have to do this a more manual way when you're making an update. But with Drush now, the manual way is just a couple of keystrokes. And then with the various modules, you can just go in and update them through the GUI. So I am going to do both just to show you. Here, let's do Drush Drupal. Again, what this is going to do, it is just going to make an update to the core files. And those are just the primary main files that it takes for Drupal to run. This is not related to all of the additional modules that I installed. Cleared my cache. We are good to go there. I will bring this back. Let's refresh this page. And if all goes well, what we should see is this update complete. Looks like, yeah, I was just one version behind. Okay, and then, you know, simply I could have done this in Drush, you know, as well. But simply, I can use the GUI to go in and make the updates for me. It will run through the process. It's asking me here if I want to place my site in site maintenance. I would do that if I was definitely working on a production level site. But since we're just running through a demo here, I won't worry about that. One thing we'll also cover is backing up your database and your files. Because particularly if you're working on a site, say for Coca-Cola, you want to make sure that you have backups, you know, of the database of the files, so that even though, you know, in your development/testing environment, everything just ran perfectly, when it comes to production, something will go wrong. So when that something goes wrong, you want to be able to, you know, fairly quickly, you know, roll it back to the previous version while you determine, you know, why the change caused the problem. Versus being down, which is not a good thing. All right, so all of my updates are there, and we should now be in business. Let's see here. I'm going to check a couple of other modules. Tell you what, let's see, I'm approaching that 15-minute mark. I'm going to run my cron job. This is something, you know, task that you'll do fairly frequently between clearing your cache and running cron, are, you know, the tasks that, you know, you will, you know, definitely do continuously as you're adding modules and adding that data to the table. And running the cron just kind of, you know, aligns the indexes of the table and just kind of cleans everything up for you. But here are all of my modules. Now, some of them are the core, which were initially installed, but, you know, you can see, you know, the various ones that I, you know, downloaded and installed with my command. So what I'm going to do, we are going to move straight into our importer. And I know with that, before the video ends, that I'm going to need a couple of additional modules that were not included in this. So let's download my feeds module. I'm going to do feeds tamper, and that should take care of that for me. also, let's go on and enable these two while I'm here and get that done. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have downloaded 2 additional modules. I have enabled those additional modules. There's another module that they were dependent on, Job Scheduler, so it's gone in and downloaded and enabled that for me. I'm going to stop the video here and then pick up with part 2, where we will be pulling in some content into our site. So hang on. I will be right back with part 2 of our web development process set up using Drupal. Talk to you in a bit.